I want to welcome the GMs and the wives, the godly men and the warm, inviting, feminine, empathetic women out there. Today's video topic is don't let your age define you and what you're capable of. So many times I've seen in my life, whether I was 10 years old and I was looking at the adults around me, or even now and I'm seeing the young people or the elderly people, and they're making these excuses on what they're accepting in life, and they've just grown to accept that this is just the way that it's going to be. And while sometimes we have to simply accept the things that we cannot change, I would highly encourage everybody to create the reality that they are looking to see. Ultimately, we are either creators with the reality that we live in, or we are products and we are a byproduct of the environment or the cultures or the people around us. And so you have to simply ask yourself, are you prepared to create the reality that you want? Or do you want to be that product? Are you ready to simply accept that? And if you are, then that's great. That's fine. But get out of the people that want to create reality. Get out of their way. Get out of our way. This is something that I say with all due respect, because anybody that's actually trying to create the reality, and maybe they're not doing so to the proficiency in which they'd like to, at least, you know what? The creators of the reality that they're already seeing, the people that are already the creators, they're going to be the ones that are going to encourage those people, because the people that are the true creators understand that there's always more pie for everybody. There's always another slice of pie for anybody that really wants it. And this is one of the reasons why I've never been too opposed to competition before, because I know that the only person that I'm really in competition with at the end of the day is myself. And so oftentimes I see these young people that have these aspirations, or I see the elderly people, or even people my age, and they've almost given up. I mean, even in the workplace is a great example. In a lot of the 9 to 5s that I've seen, and the clients that I've seen in my day job, I call it my day job, the clients that I've seen have basically thought to themselves that this is the only route to take, and that entrepreneurship, or that creating another life or another like passive income or a side business is not really what is in the cards for them. And it's like, well, have you actually looked at the cards that are being dealt? Or have you just accepted that you're going to be blind for the rest of your reality and the rest of your existence? Because if that's the case, then if you've chosen to be blind, then that's on you, don't you think? That's on you. It's not really on anybody else. And here's the thing that I've also noticed is that a lot of the times, not necessarily women, but a lot of men are completely understanding of their place in society. And it's a matter of whether or not they actually want to do something about it. Whereas with women, a lot of the times nowadays, they're very delusional on where they're at and where their place is in society. And they think that they ought to be somewhere that they're not. And so something that I've been thinking a lot about recently is the sins of man and the sins of woman in modern day times. And the sin of man in modern day times is cowardice and lack of leadership, I think. And whereas the greatest sin for women is vanity. And so we have to rectify and understand and repent from these sins. And when I say repent, I do not necessarily mean in the religious sense. I mean in the sense of retransfiguring our behaviors to ensure that the outcome that we want to see is going to be ever increasing day by day based off of our now changed behaviors. This takes a change of behavior, and many men understand this kind of change that needs to take place, but whether or not they actually want to commit to that change is something else entirely. But here's the real deal though. You can start at any time. And there's a song, Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. And the lyrics at one point go, there's always two paths you can go on. And I think that's true no matter where you're at in life. You can always choose a path that is going to lead to at least less less manifestation of disaster. Even if both of the options that you have available are resulting in something catastrophic, at least you can pick the less catastrophic route. Sometimes you're going to have multitudes of options available to you, and you're going to be able to choose the best option that actually is the best option. But it might take a lot of work. It might take a lot of vigor. It might take a lot of energy. This is something that I knew a long time ago when I really started down this path of spirituality, when I had my spiritual awakening 5 years ago. I knew that there was something big that I was going to have to do, and I didn't exactly know what it was, but what I did know was that it was going to be very difficult. And I always knew in my heart that there was this form of justice desiring to take place. It was this form of what I now call righteous indignation. But at the time, the only word that I could really think of it was justice, because I had felt so wronged by culture and society and the matrix. I didn't really, at one point I was, you could say, black-pilled. I was very nihilistic at one point, and now I have more hope than ever for humankind. I have more hope than ever for humanity. Maybe not for people, but for the individual. Because the individual, to me, is all that truly matters. This is one of the reasons why I've seen so many great changes in people that I've done consultation calls with, or just in the Regal Change Academy in general, and the tools that we have available in that academy, and all of the people that we've been able to grow with together, that we've been able to see through together, to hold each other accountable, and to make sure that we're all thriving in our own way. Because ultimately, whatever you are here to do is what you're here to do. And so your purpose might not be exactly the same as somebody else's, but you guys can exchange information and grow in a connection in which you can relate to one another and exhibit a transformational change in your life, so that you can see that there is something beyond that which is the most, I would say, not necessarily boring, but there's something more to your life. There's something more meaningful to your life than the lack of meaning that there might be in this day and age. Every single day is a new day, and it's good to switch things up. It's good to really go move through life with wisdom, and to accept that there's going to be a time to do anything in this world, and there's going to be a time to not do things sometimes as well. But no matter what age you are, it doesn't really matter. Age really is just a number. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean that we should neglect the biological configurations and the stipulations that come with our biology, but we ought not to make ourselves limited because of our age. A great example of this is David Goggins. David Goggins is either in his late 40s or early 50s by now. And that man, who has like literally broken his legs, can run more miles in a week than probably 50 to 80% of the population in the United States for people that are in their 20s. And that's, of course, David Goggins is a Navy SEAL. Of course, David Goggins has all of these other accolades available that and demonstrate and show his results. But the average person here in America, anyway, for anybody that is around the globe watching this, the average American is not making healthy choices. And I think it's because of the lack of responsibility with our freedom. We've had so much freedom and we've had so much given to us that we've completely neglected what it really means to have responsibility for freedom. And so I think one of the reasons that we ought to really take responsibility for our freedom is because you realize that it's not something that you can, like, freedom is always earned in some sense. And freedom being earned sometimes costs you blood, sweat, and tears. I know for me, when I really did start to follow Jesus 2.5 years ago, when I really did start to follow Jesus, I realized that it was not just him that was there. It was also me. And I was to be a vessel for the light of Christ. And because I realized this, I knew that I had a responsibility to be that vessel. I had a responsibility to be that light for him and his kingdom. And so we have all, each of us, the ability to create our reality in any way that we truly want. We have to just be willing to put in the work for it. And again, a lot of men understand this, but a lot of women either don't want to understand, they don't want to listen, or they don't want to do the work anyway. But a lot of men understand this. I can see it. But there are very few women that truly want to accept this reality. And to the women that do, well, then I have the utmost respect for you, because at least you're living in reality, unlike so many other people. And the men that can see this and that are actually putting in the work, I commend you, because you are going to be the leaders of this generation. And when I say this generation, I don't just mean, I mean the spirit of this time. Let's put it like that. I mean the spirit of this time. You're going to be the leader, because anybody can be a leader. But, of course, we all have something that we might be able to learn from each other. And there are going to be times when the biological factor plays an important part in leadership. And if you don't believe me, then look at the United States president, the person that can not even stand on a stage without pooping himself. And like, the poor guy is just not fit. He's just simply not fit. I don't care what your political views are. This isn't even a political channel, but the guy is just not fit for presidency. He's just simply not. And I don't know exactly who is, because at this point, in order to be a president that can actually promote the kind of freedom and values and principles that America aspires to be, you almost have to be willing to die for it at this point. And very few people that are in power right now, and when I say in power, I don't necessarily mean have power, because we all have power in some way, shape, and form, and we only have power that God has given unto us. Really, our authority only comes from the Most High God. But the people that have the influence, I would say, the people that have the influence to make certain changes, and at least in the structure of society, because you have to have some kind of structure in society, else the whole form of the community unfolds into something catastrophic. And there are arguments to be made for the legitimacy of anarchy, but I'm not going to be able to make those claims assertively with enough confidence in anarchy to do so. If anybody is unfamiliar with what anarchy actually is, I would highly suggest doing some research into it, because it's not really what you think it is. When people think anarchy, they think like just a bunch of craziness going on, but that's really not exactly what anarchy is. And again, I'm not advocating for this, but we have to really take a good hard look at the predicament that we're in and navigate through the terrain that is, and the options that we have available in this terrain. You know, we might be able to get to the top of the mountain where there's snow. We might be able to get to the top of the mountain without having to carry picks and certain kinds of shoes, and we might have to we might be able to like leave behind some food rations in order to get to the top. But then again, if you want to get there in one piece, you might actually need those things, even though it'll take longer. So you might be able to get to the top of the mountain faster without those certain resources, but the likelihood of you not making it back might be a little bit more higher because you don't have the proper resources. So at this point, I think collectively we're in a place where we have to choose one of two choices. And number one would be the slow path to rebuild, which would take time, and it would probably take multiple generations to do so. Or we go the fast route and we rebuild, but we might have to lose a lot of the structures to our society that are currently there. Those are the only two options that I see that would be applicable to building a greater world and a society at this time, because almost every other option available seems to be leading to the complete demolition of society in general. So we have to be the creators of this reality, and don't let your age define what you're able to cultivate in this reality. And with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful, and until next time, peace be with you.